Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and joining me as always is my sidekick Austin. It's time for more of our... Oh, Austin's not on screen. What happened here? He's here, but I've got to bring his window up. Apologies. I guess I didn't check the screen ahead of time. Weird.
Oh my god.
There he is. Anyway, tonight we're going to count down more of our top 100 favorite superhero movies of all time list. It's part 5 and we've only knocked out the bottom 30, Austin. So I suggest we just jump straight into it and start counting them down again. We've only been the last couple of videos doing 5 at a time. We're long-winded and we've been tacking these on after other streams, so I haven't had time to go much past an hour. We'll see how I'm feeling tonight and how long Austin wants to go. But anyway, we'll go ahead and jump right into it right after I just mentioned, once again, just in case you haven't done it yet, you still have lots of time to turn in your personal top 50 favorite superhero movies of all time, and we're using those lists to compile a top 100 for the whole channel, a communal list, and we're going to count those down when we're finished with this eventually, just like we did your top favorite DC and Marvel characters, and we're going to keep coming up with categories to do this with. It's been a really fun interactive thing to do with the audience, and Austin said last week he had about 36, 37 of those turned in.
I think that's still where it is. I actually have it open, so I can...
Well, and I haven't posted about it again.
That makes sense.
On the community tab and in the Discord and stuff. I should do that just to remind people that's happening. But once again, folks have time, so I'll make a much bigger deal about it and start kind of screaming at people when we get closer to that and see if we can get it, you know, like the nicest, loving way possible, and see if we can get it as close to 100. That's my goal. Responses as we can get it, but we'll also have like mine and yours and Jason's and some other channel people in there that haven't turned theirs in yet.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't want to turn mine in because you'll be able to see it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Well, I'm already gonna have to change things because I keep fiddling with it, so I'm gonna have to like re-enter mine.
Have you fiddled with it again before this week?
Not since this week, but since last week.
Did you watch Diabolic and get it on there?
No, I still have to.
You've got time.
I still have time.
You have time, but if you want it to show up in your rankings that we haven't said yet, you're probably going to have to do it soon, unless you just want to make the assumption that it's in your top 30. It could be in your top 30. You don't know. I don't think it's likely to be quite that high, but...
Watch, we'll have 3 left, and I'll be like, I had to change my list, everybody.
Thanks everybody for watching. If you're joining us live, thanks for watching after the fact. We appreciate that as well. We'll interact with you as we go. And Austin, we've been having you go first every time, I think.
Yeah.
So why don't we? He's like, yeah. You said your 70 was going to be a big heavy hitter title.
It is a big one.
I don't know. I haven't been guessing. I almost want to guess. Is it a Spider-Man movie? Is it another Spider-Man movie?
It is not a Spider-Man.
Is it an X-Men movie?
It is not an X-Men movie.
Is it a Batman movie?
It's not a Batman movie.
Man, okay. Is it MCU?
Guess. It is MCU.
All right, let's hear it.
My number 70 is The Avengers.
Wow. People are going to think that's crazy low. But nobody will be surprised at this point when you had Logan at like 92 beaten out by some B movie or something. I'm kidding. I can't remember what it was. Oh, I just dropped my mouse. Hold on.
What was it? Let me see. Oh, Return of Swamp Thing.
Yeah, okay. It was a B movie, essentially.
Yeah, but not the B movie. But yes.
That's not a superhero movie.
Exactly. The Avengers. I don't know. I don't think this is like a bad thing. Like, I think it's a good movie.
Sure.
It's number 70 on my list.
It's just higher on my list.
Mm-hmm. I think the big thing that kind of holds
Is it that
back...
low just because you don't like Whedon that much, so you feel like you have to artificially make it lower?
No,
that's a joke. I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, I know. I would say the big thing is just that it looks like a TV movie, so it like kind of brings it down. And then a lot of what I like about it is just the cast kind of going back off each other. Like that's kind of all it has going for it for me. So it's like it is a really good movie, but like it's more just I like seeing these characters together than it's a really good story or anything. So that kind of bumps it down. But
yeah, I think story-wise that movie resonates more with me, and I latch on to some. We've had this conversation before that there's some character and thematic stuff that you think that you don't feel as brought to the fore and drawn as I do. That's always been kind of our disagreement with that movie.
Yeah, because like with the Whedon thing, I just also feel like anyone could have made that movie. Like it's like with the strengths it has.
Yeah, I mean, and again, this turns into that kind of agree to disagree thing. I think I've always thought he's a decent writer, but I do agree that the complaint that his characters sound too much the same is definitely an issue much of the time. But like I like the story he wrote for that movie fine. Like you're right, directing wise, anybody could have made that movie, but he did write the thing.
Well, yeah, and the story I think is just these characters come together. Like Loki's doing a thing just so we can have like an army that they fight at the end, but like the story for the most part is just these characters come together.
Yeah, but the idea that the inciting incident is kind of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s fault in the first place is interesting, and the animosity that creates between Iron Man and Captain America in order to give us a sense of the polar opposite sides of an argument they're on and what their world views are. It's just really good foundational material for the arcs of both of those characters moving forward.
Yeah. I
always like the idea that the Tesseract being involved the way it is S.H.I.E.L.D.'s fault.
No, and I agree with that. But that's more flavor text to a very simple movie for me. Well, because I agree, but I also feel like we probably would have gotten that to some degree anyways, just bringing these characters together. But I mean, it's a great movie. I enjoy it.
I just think there's different
on it, but I don't.
Yeah, I just think there's different potential angles you could have gone in with, like just how far are you going to go with the government stuff, and in kind of modernizing that and making it as like post 9/11 as it was. And I always thought that was handled pretty well, but in a thing that's still an escapist fun superhero movie, and it lays the foundation for what Winter Soldier does, and how much I love that thing. So
yeah, no, and I agree with that. That's a place where he tips over the edge, I think, in Age of Ultron.
Yeah,
with the big thing is
what I still like better than you, which is why it's on my list, and I'm sure it's not on yours at all. But there's no way you put that above this.
No, it's not. No, that's the Hulkbuster scene is super awkward because it's one of the most fun parts of the movie, and then it goes, okay, this needs to end 9/11 imagery, and it's like, whoa.
Oh, I guess that's fair.
That's how we ended this. Okay. It's very weird. It's very tonally
But it does start that freedom versus security motif that I think is handled really well throughout. So.
Yeah, for sure. What is your 70?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take that over.
No, I mean, we're bouncing back and forth. Like I said, I feel like because you're more positive, I probably sounded worse on it, but it's a fun movie. I like it.
Yeah. How down are you at that point on the Hulk recasting?
I'm fine with it in the first Avengers. I still like Norton more. There's just For me, with the first Avengers, there's little moments that are off where I'm like this doesn't really feel like what I want from this character. But the overall package, I'm more fine with. It's kind of after that where it kind of, but in the first one, I'm overall fine.
I when that came out, because I know you said that at the time when you were a kid, and of course, like you're a kid back then, and I'm already
With Avengers, that's my second year of high
well,
school.
I was gonna say when the MCU starts.
Oh yeah,
So
no, I'm
like
like 10.
when you've always talked about how you didn't really care about Captain America, so you didn't go see that in the first place. Did you have any disappointment in what? Because I know you're like I like Avengers, I care about that. Did you have any disappointment in the characters they decided to put together for that? Like, were you missing Wasp and Ant-Man and like any of that?
No, because I wasn't really an Avengers comic person. I got
Okay, I
into that.
wasn't sure.
I got into that stuff more after the fact. No, my big thing seeing it the first time when I'm 14, 15, is like, oh my god, here's all the stuff I never thought I would get on screen. Like here's the helicarrier. Like here's
Yeah.
like Loki flying around on like an alien thing. The first time I see it, that movie blows my mind because it's like everything I never thought we would see. But and then like kind of over time that I don't want to say like haze like over it, like the kind of beer goggles, but like over time it's like I've seen it more for what it was, which is the every Avengers I think is made to play in the moment in a way that they don't always live up to. Not that that's like a bad thing
No, you're
necessarily,
absolutely right
but
about
like
that.
that is how they're made.
And they definitely made movies that eclipsed it, both Avengers movies and other MCU things, and other team things. Because Guardians is, I mean, I like Avengers a lot. Guardians is a much tighter, better, more kind of resonating movie with me and more entertaining.
Hmm.
Let me read super chats real quick. Dan
Yeah.
Schneider, $2 super chat. Avengers should be lower, overrated, and not great. Do you feel like there's an almost like negative reappraisal of that movie? Because I don't feel like people are on as high on it as they once were, and I wonder if it's that people have kind of turned on Whedon. I wonder if that's part of it, and I wonder if part of it is it's been eclipsed by Infinity War and Endgame for people now. Because one of the things I appreciate about some later MCU stuff, before we get into the things that haven't worked as well in the last few years, is I thought when Avengers came out, you could not recreate the magic of the novelty of that. Like you're absolutely right when you say that they've been very much in the moment event films. And I was like, the reason this was a big deal is because of the new precedent it's setting and doing a thing that hadn't really been done before in bringing all these characters together from different movies. And I got that feeling again with Civil War, and then I got that feeling again with Infinity War. And I didn't think it was possible to keep doing that, and they kept doing that.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think with Civil War it helps that it also has a really good story. And Infinity War, I feel like splits the difference, where it's like I think it's a better story than the first movie, but it's also not as good as Civil War. So like it also helps that it has that.
I agree with all of that.
Um, but what was I going to say with that? No, I mean the Avengers, like kind of all of them are essentially gimmick movies, but especially the first one. But that's also part of the charm. Like that's not necessarily a negative idea.
Yeah.
That's how they were made.
And I've always kind of applauded the attempt with each of those in my mind anyway, Austin, to try to be more than the sum of its parts. Like sometimes they succeed better than at other times, but like
Mhm.
you're right, they are gimmicky event films, and they want desperately to be more than that. All
Mhm.
four of them.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Largely the sequels. I feel like the first Avengers kind of knows its place. Where like I don't think it's really shooting high,
Well, it's
but
at least not too pretentious about it, and that's true.
mhm.
That's
No,
fair.
it knows exactly what it has to be.
And I don't mean to be overly positive about it while you're not wanting to be overly negative either. I have lots of issues with that movie.
Mhm.
And I've always complained that it's it kind of contrives its I want to say it's team ups, but like its rivalry some.
Mhm.
I've always complained about that Thor Captain
That
America
Thor
fight.
scene.
Yeah.
So it doesn't bother me as much because it feels like it's right out of Silver Age Marvel, but at the same time, it's like, are we trying to be that? Or are we trying to be, better than that?
That's
So
a
it's like,
that's a having its cake kind of thing.
exactly.
Chewbacca's Lover, $10 super chat. Avengers had me convinced I didn't like Whedon. It wasn't until I watched Buffy and Angel that I turned around on him. Really lame humor and cringy moments. The bad MCU humor starts there, and I can't disagree with that.
And it's funny
I'm
because
sorry
I
to
have the
say.
flop of you with Chewbacca's Lover, where I watch Avengers and then Firefly, and I'm like, oh, I love Whedon, he's great. And then I
Yeah.
watch Age of Ultron and Buffy, and I'm like, oh, maybe I don't like Whedon.
Let's go ahead and move on because
Yes,
this is just going to turn into an Avengers review.
this is just the entire rewind.
And we don't even need to do the commentary at this point.
I give it a nemesis.
Wow, if you're giving your number 70 a nemesis, you just don't like superhero movies, and I don't know why you're on the show. Austin, my number 70 is Darkman,
Oh, okay.
which,
You kind of have a big one for your 70.
well, it depends on who you talk
Depends
to.
on who you talk to.
Yeah, that's a minor film for a lot of people. I like the mood and atmosphere of that movie, but also the kind of kitschiness of it. That's one of those very elevated sort of B movies. And I feel like Raimi as a director, until he gets Spider-Man, he's always kind of skirting the line of that with that, where there's such good production value with his movies that aren't super expensive to make. Where you go, does this count as a B movie? Like, I feel like just the artistry of it is elevating it beyond that. But it's also it also intentionally gets silly, not to the degree that like Evil Dead does. But in some of those B movie kinds of ways, there's a couple of just like really bizarre moments. Like, I don't know why you're having Liam Neeson do this right now. It's very creepy and strange, and it's like it's there just to there's that thing in the carnival.
He has the freak out and it like zooms into his eye.
Yeah, and you have like the bent finger bit.
Yes.
Do you remember that? Where I'm like,
Yeah.
what is happening right? This is weird.
There is also footage from Darkman that is in Spider-Man, like it's stock footage they reuse, and it's hilarious.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the
Is
big
that true?
the big DNA thing when you're seeing like the spider DNA go into him, that shot is reused from Darkman.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no, it blew my mind when I
Is that even
finally watched
legal?
that.
Like, who owns that?
I don't know who put out Darkman, to be honest, but they probably paid for that.
Yeah, I bet so. That's pretty
That
crazy.
or it's just whatever stock footage that you can just use. I don't know.
I got to look that up. I can't remember who owns that. I want to say New Line because I feel like everything I'm not sure what it is turns out to be New Line.
Yeah. Well, and another thing that's funny with that is Raimi wanted it to be Bruce Campbell.
Yeah,
and,
right.
The studio was like, no, it's got to be someone else, and they got.
That's
Liam
why he has
Neeson.
the cameo at the end.
Yeah,
Which is a great cameo.
It is a great cameo. And when I finally watched it, Cap was like, or no, I asked him, I was like, does Bruce Campbell have a good cameo? And he's like, I'm not telling you. And the entire movie, I'm like, oh, what's it gonna be? Like, it's got to be something crazy. And then I'm like, right at the end, I'm like, oh, I guess he just didn't want to let me down. Oh my god. But what I was gonna say is,
Yeah, you watched that movie for the first time in preparation for this list, so.
no, before that, I want to say like a year or two ago.
Oh, okay. Were
Um,
we not talking about this that long ago?
no, I want to say you were maybe doing it. I
No,
don't know.
I haven't done it for anything in a long time. I
Oh, okay,
forget.
then
But
I
you-
just watched
but
it.
you finally watched it, yeah.
But what I was gonna say is Bruce Campbell also does some of the ADR for Darkman.
Oh
which
yeah, you told me about that,
Mhm.
which I did not know.
Yeah.
It'll be really fun when we finally do the commentary for that, because I'll do more of a deep dive into the background of that movie. Because when I did the rewind years ago, it was before I was doing quite as much background research, like I typically still do now, depending on what it is. And I don't think I've listened to a commentary with that movie. Maybe I have.
hmm
I'm
Yeah,
sure
not
he made
that-
one. Sam Raimi loves his commentaries.
hmm Yeah, for sure.
I would be really surprised. But that's a great kind of monster movie on top of the superhero thing. Like it's real pulpy in its way. It throws back to stuff like Jekyll and Hyde and even like Invisible Man. I think there's a bit of that in there.
There's a lot of Universal monsters just baked into that, and then he also brings that to Doc Ock. Like that's clearly just something that Raimi's a big fan of.
And I've always loved that outfit, and that's one of the things that makes it feel real pulpy too, just because it's the coat and hat bit.
Yeah, well, I think it's really interesting that Sam Raimi has now done 3 separate superhero things, um, each in a different era of superhero films, and he kind of like,
And they're all different genres in their way.
well, yeah, and he kind of camouflages into just what the superhero genre looks like at that moment. There's obviously Raimi things in them, but like Darkman is very post 89.
And they're like pioneering at the same time as they're. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. And like as much as they're influenced by what's happening right then, right? Like Darkman a little less so. But like, what's weird is that feels like a movie that's taking a lot of cues from '89, but it comes out the very next year. So like, it's like how much of that is just what's in the air, and how much of it is it's actually looking at that. It can't look at it much. It's the prep for it would have been while '89 was still in the oven.
No, exactly. And then Spider-Man feels very of its time, and so does Doctor Strange.
But the Spider-Man, I would argue, is pioneering more than it's borrowing from anything.
That more than the other two.
I mean, it's looking at Superman as much as it's looking at anything, and that's decades after that at that point.
Yep.
But this will all be interesting to talk about when we do the commentary with that movie. But yeah, and then in its way, Darkman has like a little bit of a Clayface thing going on. Like if you made a standalone Clayface movie, like there's been talk of, Darkman's the first thing I would go back and look at.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want that Clayface movie so bad because it's Flanagan wants to make it, and he's like,
"Oh yeah,
perfect." Give it to me.
I couldn't remember who was talking about that.
Yeah. No, I want it so bad.
So I'm sure that movie will show up on Austin's list and be higher because he's a big Raimi guy. We'll see how close I got. I bet it's a lot higher. Austin, what is your 69, sir?
My 69 is a one that I feel like I should be embarrassed.
I'm sorry. Can
about.
I read the super chat real quick?
Yes.
I'm interrupting you again, and I apologize, but it is related to what we just talked about, so I don't want to get too far away from it. Bob the Hunt, $2 super chat. Was Raimi going to make Batman and the Shadow or BS? What is BS?
Bull. I think it's saying because there's been a lot of talk about.
Or is that BS? I see.
I think that's what. Yeah.
Well, Raimi's name was on lots of development hell kinds of projects, and like here and there, right?
I think at one point he was in talks to do a Thor movie.
Yeah.
But that's always what I've heard is that he wanted to do a Batman movie and made Darkman. I don't know if that's true, but
yeah, that's what I've always heard as well.
So maybe it's true, maybe it's BS.
It could have been both. It could have been him going, I'd love to make Batman, I'd love to make Shadow. I guess I'll make a thing that's kind of both. Because Darkman is kind of both in a way.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
At least it's taken a lot from both of those things. You know, there's some Dick Tracy in that. I mean, you can trace the roots of Darkman to lots of different things, and it's one of those things that is derivative of enough different things that it manages to carve out its own place, right? Like, it feels like it should be really generic.
Well, because the setup's also the same as like RoboCop or the Swamp Thing movie, but it still manages to just cut its own piece into that.
And I've still never seen the sequels. So they had no chance of being on this list, but they probably had no chance of being on this list anyway, because I've not heard good things about them. But I love the title "Die Darkman Die," and I really want to watch that one just because the title is great. But yeah, Return of Durant, and then you have Die Darkman Die. There's 3 of them.
Which German for the Darkman, the
right. That's the joke you always make when I bring that up. And I think it's true that I can't remember. I feel like I read somewhere that weirdly those movies are reversed, where like one happened, like the third one happens before the second one or something. I can't remember.
Oh, weird.
There's something really weird about the order of those, and I don't remember what it is now.
That is really weird.
I shouldn't have brought that up. I don't know what I'm talking about. There's something with that. Anyway,
It's BS.
it's BS. What is your next one, sir?
So my next one is one that I feel like I should be embarrassed about because people really turned on, but I don't care.
I have that with my next one too, honestly.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Kinda.
It's definitely the pieces are better overall. My 69 is Spider-Man Far From Home.
No, that's fair. And I feel bad about not including it just because Mysterio is so good.
And Mysterio's my favorite Spider-Man villain. So it's like, it was really cool that not only was it not the take I wanted for Mysterio, but they won me over on it. And just everything with him is perfect.
That's perfectly fair. It's maybe a little high.
I also because everybody goes to, okay, they made Homecoming and there's so much world building, and then 2 is like a movie off. I'm fine with that as a second movie. Everything with that in terms of how he built Spider-Man is all in the third movie for me, where I'm perfectly fine with doing that for 2. My only issue with that is I just think Aunt May should have come on the trip as like a parent. What's that called? Like sometimes for like school trips, you'll have like a parent come on the trip as like the
that would have
Guardians.
Been good.
That's like my one big thing is I'm like, she should have been there because we needed to do things with her. No, I
just feel like you only have so much real estate when you're Spider-Man's a kid and he's growing up, and you know, like that's when you wish it could be a TV show, which I know we talk about all the time.
Which is absolutely fair, and I agree with that.
But honestly, I wouldn't complain that with that as much if I liked the movie better, right?
Yeah,
like absolutely. It all kind of comes down to what story you told and how you told it. Ultimately,
yeah.
And I've got big comedy issues with that movie.
So do I. Yeah, a lot of the MCU movies that are on my list, I have comedy issues with it at some point. I agree.
Or as Joaquin Phoenix says in the Joker in the Joker movie, comedy.
I also really like the climax of Far From Home. It's one of my favorite MCU climaxes. I think everything with Spider-Man and the drones is really fun, and how they did the thing I wanted, which is the spectacular Spider-Man Spider-Sense fight with him and Mysterio.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah, so like there's so much in that movie that kind of wins me over in a movie that overall is maybe not great, but I don't know, I enjoy it for what it is.
Well, and the reveal with him as the full-on villain of the piece is really impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, exactly.
Because in a movie where you know that's going to happen, I found myself still a little blindsided by it, just because I thought there was a chance it could go another way.
And because we brought back Box of Scraps guy.
Box of Scraps guy, it's so good!
No, that and building on that one scene from Civil War is such a good, just taking pieces from random movies and building off of it.
It's also really surreal to me looking back at that their bait and switch was convincing the audience that their Mysterio came from a different universe, and then directly after that they went multiverse saga. That, like, it's really weird going back and thinking about that.
It's super awkward as a Spider-Man trilogy because of that.
Well, and also because it happens right after Endgame, and it's the next thing after the blip, right? Like, that also makes it kind of awkward.
Yeah.
It has that even, like, way more so than the Iron Man movies do. Where, like, Iron Man as a trilogy is kind of strange because some of the big plot points and character things that we do with that character is outside of his trilogy. It's way worse with Spider-Man.
Well, the MCU Spider-Man movies have the weirdest thing in the MCU, which is that all 3 of them have to sum up what happened for like the first 10 minutes, where like the opening of Homecoming is like, oh, by the way, this just happened in Civil War. The opening of Far From Home is this just happened in Endgame. And then
it's true.
The opening of No Way Home is, oh crap, this is the ending we gave ourselves. We don't want to do anything with that. Throw it away. Get through this as fast as we can so we can get to the cash-in aspect.
I will say I'm gonna backtrack something for a second because I said that it's weirder than Iron Man. I guess it's not really character stuff. Their Spider-Man doesn't change much outside of his own movies. So it's not big character arc things. Like even with the big deal they made out of him dying in Infinity War, with Iron Man and all that. I mean, like everybody else, he comes back, so it doesn't end up really being that big of a deal. But Iron Man has huge character things that impact his movies that happen in other movies.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's Spider-Man Far From Home. I agree with Speedy Vescu. I think it's a movie that's kind of overhated at this point, but I like it well enough.
Yeah. No, it's a mixed bag, but it's not a movie that I've been
a mixed bag,
super compelled to keep going back to. And it also just hurts my feelings because I think Homecoming. I mean, because I thought Homecoming was so good.
I mean, it's definitely a step down from Homecoming. There's no denying it, but I don't know. It's nowhere near the worst Spider-Man movie.
Yeah. And their villain is one of the better MCU villains and one of the best Spider-Man villains. Dan Schneider, $2 super chat. They did stuff with Aunt May. They had her screw happy. That's what they did. That's what you get. Read a book.
Yep. But only the first chapter. What is your 69?
No one's gonna understand why you said that. My number. Wow, we're taking for.
If they watch the request, which every Geekvolution viewer does, right?
Yeah,
then they would know.
Yep, those are really, really well watched. I want to thank everybody for tuning into that. We are half an hour in and we've done like 3 movies.
I think we've only done 2. Oh no, yeah, I guess
we've done 3. My number 69 is a movie that is not very good, but I have lots of nostalgia for and it's fun. And one of my rules with this is if I quote it enough, it has to go on. And so that would be, of course, Ninja Turtles 2.
Oh, okay.
Which is a movie that I certainly liked more as a kid, and there's annoying things with that, of course, because it's so compromised. I make this joke every place I can that the secret of the ooze is that there's ooze. But it also has one of the like some of the funniest lines in those movies, like between 1 and 2 and 3 is whatever. Things like Michelangelo's "All the good ones end in O," which always makes me laugh. And I've been thinking, and also Super Shredder as a visual thing is so cool and was such a big deal as a kid. And he gets 30 total seconds of screen time and he pulls himself down at the end at a pier. I've been talking lately, I've been getting a lot of suggestions from people to make some kind of a pitch series where I would kind of pitch a story for a property, and maybe it would be rewriting a movie I didn't think worked very well, and maybe it would be pitching something brand new. I've been kicking around if I do that series starting with Ninja Turtles 2. Because I have lots of ideas for how some of what's done in that movie could have been handled in a much more creative way. And obviously, like I said, compromised. The secret was supposed to be Dimension X. By all accounts that I've heard, the big revelation is it comes from Dimension X. We're going to introduce Krang and or the Utroms, and they didn't end up going that way. And 3 was supposed to get into all of that and didn't even include a villain anybody had ever heard of, and it was even more unfortunate. At least
that's the guy that implodes on himself.
Yeah, at least 2 had fun stuff like Toka and Razor, and they actually like played around with mutates, and they had giant dandelions, and that was fun. But there are characters in that movie that are stand-ins for comic characters or TV show characters that were supposed to make that movie that didn't. Like the doctor guy in that is supposed to be Baxter Stockman, wasn't. So like that, that's kind of sad. That's kind of lame. But I've always loved the lair in that movie that they moved to, the like abandoned train, like depot or whatever. The subway thing. I always thought that was a really neat set. and even though it's kind of, you know, toned down, dumbed down as far as the action goes, the choreography and stuff in that is still pretty decent. Like, it looks okay, but that's a fun movie. My wife is still a big fan of that. She still wants to watch that as much as one. Oh, and also the opening sequence, the opening credits with everybody in the city eating pizza is just great.
Yeah, 1 2 was a movie I liked more than 1 as a kid.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think just because like it's so silly and goofy that like as a kid I'm like, oh, like this is like the more fun one of the two. Obviously 1 is a much better movie, but I enjoy 2.
Bob the Hunt, $5 super chat. You and Austin need to continue. Let's do it again. The series Eric was doing. You both could come up with some awesome ideas. We'd love to see it. It would not be that show. It wouldn't be called that. That was Eric's thing. It'd be a different thing. And with respect to Austin, he and I do so many different things together. I don't know if I'm going to include a co-host on that, or if it would just be me coming, because I don't do those things typically real broadly. I have a hard time not getting really detailed with it, and so I would be likely to almost half script it if I was doing those, or at least doing, you know, a decent amount of outlining. The one episode I appeared on when Eric was doing that show, I did a Ghostbusters
It's
thing.
a separated. It's an annotated additional one where they did theirs and then they did a part 2 that's just yours.
It's just me, yeah, and
like maybe a little longer.
Yeah, it was longer. I got so into it that I was like writing pieces of dialogue and stuff.
Yeah, I actually recently, during breaks at school between classes, I went through and re-listened to all of those.
Oh wow, cool.
So it's like kind of fresh on the mind, yeah.
But I would like to do something like that, but it would be a different thing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, at the very least, like if you did something that I'm really into, I could maybe pop on for one.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I'm not against you, Bray. I'm not telling you like you're not invited. You can never do it.
I mean, I don't know if I have a pitch for Ninja Turtles too. So if you started that, it would make more sense to me. So
I was gonna say a lot of the things I want to do are probably things you wouldn't have any interest in, or just don't know that much about. Obviously, I've done my Power Rangers thing. People know about that. I want to do one for Captain Planet. I've been kicking that around. Like what a kind of serious live action Captain Planet thing would look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And things like that. I've thought about. Sorry, we'll get back to the list. I've thought about even trying to, just as an exercise, try to pitch what a half decent live action Powerpuff Girls would actually look like. Because I think it's a terrible idea. But
can I come on that one? Just so I can pitch the CW show?
No.
No.
But like I think that's a horrible idea. But I like the idea of trying to make it work. Like if you were, you know, a writer that was hired to come on that project and do it, like, you know, what would it look like? But anyway, Austin, what is your 68, sir?
My 68.
Oh, I'm sorry. This happened again. Robert, $2 super chat. I love a comic legacy sequel to Ninja Turtles 1990. I'm kind of surprised IDW hasn't done that yet. Because they've got some, well, I was going to say precedent for that kind of, maybe not exactly that. They've adapted some, like, abandoned scripts. They've done that kind of thing. But, and also I don't even know if they would have the rights to do that. No, they should. I think Nickelodeon owns everything Ninja. Like, do they have that movie? That kind of thing tends to be kind of sticky. I don't know if
I don't know.
I know they have like all of the TV stuff. Do they actually have the rights to the movie, or is it tied up with New Line and they can't actually do anything with it? I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Dan Schneider, $5 super chat. If you ever go through that series, please do what you would do for a 5th Batman film after Batman and Robin instead of rebooting. And if I did that, I'd probably bring Austin on to that.
I was going to say I could do that one. It would have the live action CW Powerpuff Girls. That's crossover.
See, if you keep saying that, you're not gonna.
I'm just never allowed on this.
Yeah, why would you pitch a thing that was already? I don't even understand this as a joke. Like,
I don't know. I just think that's amusing. But anyway, and because I know you're like, oh.
I just read the details of it. It just sounded terrible. It sounded painful. But I do hope
I
that at
want to
some
see
point
the
that
pilot.
I hope it leaks. I really want to see it. Anyway, I'm sorry. What is your 68, sir?
My 68 is Superman and the Mole Men, which is a movie that I first saw when we watched
Wow,
together.
I didn't even think of that.
Hmm.
But we
It
talked
was
over it. I've never actually sat there and watched it unfettered. So,
it was a late addition to my list, but
Dan Schneider, $2 super chat. Also sequels to '03 Daredevil and Hulk, please. Yeah, it's a good idea. I don't know what the hell I would do with an '03 Hulk sequel, but see, look, there's interest in this. I'm gonna have to kick it around and figure out.
Well,
What
if
to
I'm
do
there
with
for Daredevil, I'm pitching the movie I was lied to about Daredevil fights a pterodactyl man. uh, yeah, I don't have a ton to say about Superman.
What would that have been called? Daredevil versus the Pterodactyl Man?
Versus Sauron from X-Men.
Oh, it would have just been Sauron.
Be the title. It would be Daredevil versus Sauron from X-Men.
Which they wouldn't have even had the rights to. That's not a Fox movie.
Yeah, Daredevil's Fox.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yep.
I'm sorry. Just here in the moment, I'm forgetting this. Okay. I guess you're right. I guess it was.
Yeah, because Sony was Ghost Rider and Spider-Man, and then Fox was
That's right.
the rest.
Sony had Ghost Rider. Okay. Sometimes my brain freezes up. There's so many things to keep track of with this.
No, I get it.
With this topic. No, I guess you're right. It's just I always think of Fox as just X-Men and Fantastic Four, but I guess that's because at one point Marvel got some of that stuff back.
Mm-hmm. Well, they get Daredevil a lot faster, yeah.
And so when they get Daredevil back, they still don't have Fantastic Four and X-Men.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they didn't make another movie.
So yeah, they could have done that. Anyway, they could have done. So all of this to say, they could have done Daredevil versus Sauron. I don't know why you would, but they could have.
Because it would have been awesome. Superman and the Mole Men is just a very amusing B movie with Superman and a bunch of little mole people come out of the ground and they start causing terror, and then it becomes like an allegory for race, and then Superman at the end forces them to live underground, and it's awesome.
Expect an increase of little people as we move along.
Oh, 100%.
Because Austin has a whole little people thing.
Because it's funny.
Oh, Austin.
What is your 60?
I want to know how many people have unsubscribed because of this.
What do you mean? That would be prejudice.
Just offended by. That's what I mean. Like offended by that because they think you're like heightist or something.
I'm not heightist. I love little people.
That's one of my favorite lines in the live action Tick series. Is when Deflator, or not Deflator Mouse, sorry, Batman well in that. He's heightist bastards. It's always funny.
But no, Superman and the Mole Men is just a very charming little movie. What is your number 68 or 67, whichever number we're on?
We're on 68. I thought it was charming too. What little I remember of it because we talked over it, and I've never just sat down and watched it. But that wasn't an official Rewind commentary, so we will actually have to do it prepared at some point because that was blind.
Mm-hmm.
My 68. See, we just milk this stuff for all it's worth. You know, you do the how we felt about, and then you do a. We don't do this anymore. I was gonna say then you do a much longer spoiler cast, and then you do a blind commentary, and then you do a thought through commentary.
No, because if it was a longer spoiler cast, it would now be like 8 hours.
That's true. Yeah. Well, because we do spoilers in the How We Felt Abouts now. My 68, I said, yeah?
Yep.
Is Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh, okay.
And I wish I could put that a little higher, but there is unfortunately just a little bit too much that went wrong with that movie. I'm not going to think of much to say that you guys haven't heard me say about this before. The reason it's on the list and as high as it is because A, I think Garfield's really good casting. B, I love their Gwen Stacy. C, I really appreciate that they get past the secret identity thing with them, and the way she finds out is really charming, and just everything about that relationship in that first movie at least is really endearing. And they get as I've said about 100,000 times, Webb really gets the relationship stuff, and he just doesn't really know how to put the superhero stuff on screen. And so the superhero action in that movie is not great to sometimes lame. The villain plot is very silly and make funnable and turn everybody into lizards. And there's some real goofy odd choices in the third act that are supposed to be badass that just do not kind of work that way. And the whole thing is unfortunately built on a faulty premise, or I shouldn't say faulty, on a series of conveniences, which has always really irked me. I don't like the background with the parents and all of that, but I do like thematically the way the origin is handled a lot, not in the parent side so much, but in the death of Uncle Ben, and how close Peter Parker gets to a vengeance-fueled character, how close he gets to being one of his own rogues gallery. I think that whole thing is great. And the moment on the bridge with the kid in the mask and Spider-Man just all at once coming to understand what he could be for people versus just trying to get revenge for his uncle is brilliant, I think. Like, that's always really stuck with me. That scene all by itself makes the movie deserve to be on my list, I think. And that's my review. Sorry, what?
An Amazing One is not making my list.
At all? Wow.
No, I do not like that movie. I think it...
Oh, really? Just in general?
Yeah. So
well, that'll be fun to do when we get there then.
I've always been kind of mixed on it, where I'm like, here are the things I like, here are the things I don't. And then when No Way Home was coming out, I was going through all the movies, and I stopped at like 40 minutes in. I was like, I can't handle more of this.
Wow.
I've like completely flipped around. I don't like that movie almost entirely.
Well, that'll be interesting when we get there.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll probably just be us talking at cross paths, I imagine.
Possibly, I don't know. My big thing with Amazing One, and
no, Will, I can tell.
and I know people are immediately going to go, okay, but the MCU movies have this as well, and I agree, but I also think they work a little better. My biggest thing with Amazing is that I feel like there's like no creative choices. It's all just Sony executives going, okay, here's the thing that we should put in, and it's all just them piecing it together like that.
Yeah, and that might be fair. There's sometimes I see past that, or I'm blinded by it. However, you know, glass half empty, glass half full by performances.
And I've just never really liked Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, but fair enough.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think he works almost at all. I think as Peter Parker. So I think, because I know, like, from talking to people like Dan, where it's like, they pick up more on like the kind of dicko-ness of it, where it's like he's an outsider and that he's kind of like an a-hole.
Yeah.
But like, to me, it's always just come off as like very much in its time and place, where it's like, how should we do Peter Parker? He's like the outsider who like rides a skateboard down the classroom. Like he's like that guy, and he's like a weird stalker, and I don't like him. And when he puts on the mask, he's like stoic until we want to have the joke scenes, and then he just becomes Deadpool. A lot of it, I think, is they go, okay, Spider-Man's a jokey character, and with Andrew Garfield specifically, they don't let him have quips. They make him go, okay, this is the joke scene, and we have to stop for like 5 minutes to hear him do stand-up, and it's like really obnoxious. That knife scene, the like immediate joke is funny, and then it just keeps going.
Yeah.
The worst is the beginning of Amazing 2, though.
I mean, I don't disagree with any of that. I think it well, except that like I don't find him creepy in the same way as some people do, but I see that read. It's just kind of a degree thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there are people who like that movie. Like, I'm not dogging on you for.
They're not in the comments, but.
No, I know DJ really likes that movie. Like, I'm not dogging on you guys for liking it. It just doesn't work for me.
Okay, we got one guy. Viscu is like, you aren't allowed to give Austin a hard time for Spider-Man 3 anymore. I'll never understand that, but all right.
It's a better movie.
It's not, though. We can just agree to disagree on that.
A director had a vision.
It's not a it's not a good one, but all right. I think it's so funny that you like that movie more than I do because I that even more than two. I don't mean to get back on this again, but like I see so much like bad TV in it, like so much like
Oh,
CW type
I
stuff in
agree.
it,
I agree.
and that puts me off a lot more than like just emo kinds of stuff in Amazing. Like,
But like I said when I brought up three, I have that with all three of them. So it's not like, oh, I get to three and it's an issue. It's an issue through all of them. So
yeah,
like,
but for me, the first two have some of that, and three is leaping off a cliff. It's like it's like the way Transformers 2 takes the humor I didn't like in that first movie and makes a whole movie out of it. Like that's three.
mhm. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I have that with all three of them. So it's not really as big of a leap off the cliff for me. Because I
Yeah,
also
but
have the
I can't
CW
believe
thing,
you don't see it
which is amazing.
as a much more gigantic issue in that than in two. Like,
But that's why it's lower than two, because it is definitely worse. I
yeah,
have two much higher than I put three.
I
um,
want to say I'd be surprised if I put Spider-Man 3 on even a second list of 100, but that's probably hyperbolic.
I was gonna say that's
That's
hyperbolic.
probably hyperbolic. Okay, what is your? I'm making a point here. What is
Amazing
your?
probably wouldn't make my next 100.
What is your 67?
My 67, and we were so close to lining up.
Oh,
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
oh, really?
Yeah, it's a very stupid movie,
You
but
even
it's a
had it
very
higher than I
fun,
did.
enjoyable
That's
movie.
hilarious.
It is funny,
I
yeah.
want to tell you my pitch so bad, but I'm not going to because I might make that show. I have a cool pitch though.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, basically everything that you said. Like, I don't really have anything to add to that. It's stupid. It's a huge step down from the first movie, but it's still a fun time.
Do you like
Uh,
Kino?
yeah, I like him well enough. I love Go Ninja Go Ninja Go.
I don't know. I'm just making conversation, really.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Sparkles.
that's also a movie. It's been a long time, so it's not like I have like a ton of like, oh, here's my like detailed thoughts.
Yeah, sure.
But I remember liking him, man.
That feels like the start of Raphael's got to get kidnapped a lot. Sparkles Lover, $10 super chat. Austin's experience. Yeah, and then you get to 2014 and they go, what if we flipped it where most of the turtles get kidnapped?
Except for Raphael.
And Raphael has to go save them. Okay, good job. Uh, and why can't they just extract the blood from Splinter? I'll never understand that. Austin's experience with Amazing Spider-Man's mirrors mine with Avengers almost beat for beat. I was disappointed, but convinced myself I liked it, but ultimately landed on I think it sucks. Oh, all right.
That's too bad. I'm sorry.
I can't relate to that in any way, but I'm sorry that you had that experience with them.
Oh, he's also saying he
I
left
see
a super
that.
chat. Yeah, so
I
if
see
you wanna-
that.
We got a lot of super chats that are sidetracking us.
No, I appreciate you guys though. Thanks for the support. Chewbacca's Lover, $5 super chat. Don't let Austin discourage you from supporting the channel. Which has a better chance of happening? Siskel and Ebert reactions or Cap's pitch series? I say both would be really awesome and popular. No, I'll say they both have equal chance of happening because I intend to do both of them. I can't say which I'll go to first. It kind of just depends on what kind of prep I decide to do with them. And I'm trying not to overextend myself and add too much stuff because I'm trying to do the collection videos and I started doing the wizard video. So I've got different stuff cooking, but and I'm in the middle of trying to get this movie made. But so stuff that doesn't take long to prep for is more likely to happen than other things. And I've still got a script to rewind I've got to make, Austin. I was hoping to do that by the end of September, and I did not get there.
Oh, true. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, I've got to do that Logan
You
review.
didn't say which September.
Well, that's true. That's well, and I didn't give it a hard date. I said that I was shooting for that, and it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I just got to find a weekend that I can get rolling on it, or take a week. I might just take a week off somewhere and work on it.
Yeah,
But
write it in that Thursday next week.
But anyway, thanks for the house cleaning super chat, and now we'll get back to lists. Do you have anything else to say about Ninja Turtles 2?
Nope.
Yeah, we got really close on that one too. It's the same thing that happened with First Avenger.
Yep.
Except
so close.
reversed. You had it one above
But
me.
there was one we lined up on. Oh, it was Hellboy.
Oh, was that exactly the same number? I think it
Yep.
was. That's crazy. Okay, my 67 is another movie I expect that you'll... Well, I was going to say, I mean, you haven't said it yet, so you'll definitely have it higher than me. I don't know by how much, but probably a decent amount, because this is another thing that you're... a character you're a big fan of in the first place. So, as we've talked about before, sometimes it's like quality of movie plus interest in the thing in the first place. But my 67 is Doctor Strange.
Oh, okay, yep.
What do I want to say about Doctor Strange? I like
Doctor Strange.
That's another one of those movies that I do actually kind of like more every time I see it, but I don't think to put it in much. So I didn't feel like I could put it all that much higher. And I like a lot more now than I did even in the theater. I think the character arc is really quite good, and I think they did a really good job separating it from Tony Stark, who feels like he's patterned so much off of comic book Doctor Strange that when you get to Strange, it's like, how do we do this without him being just the exact same sort of like conceited character, narcissistic type character, and it's in a little bit of a different vein than that, the brand of selfishness that he has.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I know it's controversial. I think their take on the Ancient One is really good, or at least that performance is really good.
Yeah, it's weird because I agree. Like, I don't like that they did that, but at the same time, she does a really good job, Tilda Swinton.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at on it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's funny because she is a major character in the Constantine movie, and that movie has that same thing a lot too, where like it reinvents things a lot further than I would have wanted them to, but it's pretty good, so I don't mind it at the end of the day. Like, it's odd that they have that in common and she's in both of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is weird. That's Constantine's not a movie I know super well, so it's like I always forget she's in it.
Yeah, she's Gabriel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Doctor Strange is one of the MCU's best directed movies or most like particularly great looking movies. I think the mirror dimension and all that stuff is pretty cool looking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, it's got one of the best third acts in the MCU. Everything with Dormammu is great. I wish it was Tony Todd, but he's still great. And
I still hate that he came in and voiced it and then they didn't use that. No, you're right. The end of that does look really cool, and it's a really inventive and very Doctor Strange type ending. Like, that's about as comic book as they get with it, where it's not about fisticuffs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he's got to both do, really.
Yeah, where he's got to kind of clever his way out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, exactly.
And I like the way that he just beats Dormammu with on his own plane with kind of a logic. Just a logical kind of argument. And also at the time I thought that was the closest we were going to get to Galactus, and so it was really exciting to get to Dormammu, and now we're going to get full on Galactus, and hopefully it's great. But
I mean, that casting choice is great, so unless he gets Tony Todded, it should be great.
And of course I love their Wong.
Yes. Yeah, I love their Mordo.
He's just gotten more fun as it's gone.
Kaecilius is fine.
And Mordo...
That choice is strange.
Mordo's an actor I liked a lot already.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was exciting to get him in that. Kaecilius is not the best.
He's not the worst either. He exists somewhere in the middle. He's all right.
And they do have a little bit of MCU humor issues in that, but not to the degree of a lot of other things. Like, it's not terrible. Some of the stuff with the cape is a little irritating, but beyond
It's
that,
it's one of my go-to for bad MCU humor, just in that because I think I've talked about this before, where a lot of people go to stuff like Ragnarok, but for me, it's things like Black Panther and Doctor Strange, where it's a movie that like really doesn't fit it, and we keep trying to do it, and like that's when it becomes more awkward for me.
yeah,
Uh,
that's fair.
but I don't know. There's also funny things in that movie. It just has quite a few things that are just MCU humor because it has to be there.
What is your 66?
My 66 is I wish I could say is
And
Batman
these will probably be the
66.
last ones for tonight. I'm gonna have to get going.
That's what I figured. My 66 is a Batman movie, though. It's Batman versus Dracula.
Do you know how much I wish I had put a Batman 66 movie for 66? Like, I wish I'd done that.
Hmm.
I should have done that.
Almost got him.
Batman versus Dracula is higher than where I put it by quite a bit. Yeah, I had it at 86,
Okay, I couldn't remember if it was on your list already.
and I think I had it a little low. In fact, I'm looking at this and I almost want to flip my 66 and my 86.
Oh, that's a bad sign.
Yeah, no, it's pretty funny. When we get, and I won't have much to say about my next one, because just spoilers, we've already covered it. But I almost want to flip them like right here on the fly. Anyway, I did talk about Batman versus Dracula, but why don't you put an amendment to that real quick?
No, I mean, I love horror. I love that they were able to go to some of the places that they were allowed to. And I feel like we kind of talked about it, both of us, so I won't get like too deep into it. But
Yeah,
uh,
it's tough when we get several hours and weeks away from it, where it's like, what did we talk about? Like,
yeah,
we don't want to
exactly,
repeat ourselves too
exactly.
much, but
And it's a movie I haven't seen in a few years, so it's not like it's super fresh. But
were you a fan of that show?
I think I watched it like here and there. So so I don't know. I'm like 12 or whatever, and like getting onto YouTube, and I'm like, oh, I like the show, okay. And then I find you and Eric, and I'm like, oh, it's like it must be like a bad show, so I guess I have to not like it. 'Cause I'm like a 12-year-old, so
That's
I
funny though, because Eric and I were on opposite sides of it. Like, he liked that show.
see, but I thought he didn't like it at first. I feel like there's like a couple videos he made where he didn't, and then he grows to like it over time.
That's not
Uh,
how I remember that,
but I
but
could be wrong. This is going off, old
we'll
memory.
see. Yeah, and I mean, same here, but
But I just remember being like, oh, I guess I'm not supposed to like this show. It's not good.
that's so funny. That just means that between our Siskel and Ebert, you sided with me, so I appreciate that.
Apparently, yeah.
I might not be remembering that right.
Yeah, and I might not be either.
How do you feel about Dracula's characterization in that?
I think everything with him is really cool. Obviously, you can't go like super far in a kids movie, but everything we do with him is about as far as I feel like they could take it.
They gave him some real gravitas. I
Absolutely.
mean, there was a lot of reverence for the history of that character, where like, it felt like they were taking an opportunity. We're like, if we're actually going to be crazy enough to make Dracula a real, honest to god Batman villain, like he has been a couple times in the comics, like let's actually do that right, and
Yeah.
let's not miss the opportunity to do a lot of cool character parallels between them.
Mhm.
And that was always my big takeaway with that, is they went, people on the streets looking at Batman as an urban legend see him as Dracula. What if he actually dealt with Dracula? What's really the difference between them?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. That was also probably one of the first Dracula movies I see. It's either that or the Coppola movie. I can't remember. But I found it genuinely creepy as a kid. Like a lot of the horror played for me. That image of how he beats Dracula is still burned in my brain. Like that's such a beautifully animated section where you have like the UV light and he like puts his
Yeah.
cape up. It looks so good.
And actually getting Dracula into the Batcave was cool.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a really fun movie. When you're a kid to watch around Halloween, and I feel like it always played around Halloween on like the kids channels at the time.
I put it off for a long time because I like everybody knows I didn't care for that show initially, and that's the thing that turned me around on that show, which I talked about before. But I was shocked by how good it was
Mhm.
when I finally watched it. I also think, tell me if you agree with this, that they upped the ante on the animation on that almost as much as Phantasm did from the cartoon show to the movie. Like that nearly could have released theatrically. They
Probably,
did
yeah.
so much extra with it.
I mean, it's been so long, but like from like the images that I remember, like probably,
Like
yeah.
just like Phantasm, it's still that show. It's still those designs. Like
Mhm.
it's mostly detailed the same way, but there are I but they get ambitious with like camera work, and there's places where they go a little bit more in depth with the I want to say there's even some straight up CG stuff in that. I can't remember,
Probably.
but it looks really really good.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So yeah, that's a movie that I like to talk about because it's so easy to sleep on it.
Mhm. Yep. But you can only sleep on it during the day.
My 66 is a movie. God, I wish I'd put a 60s Batman thing on here. Is a movie that you've talked about already, and
It's
that
Toxic Avenger 3.
no, it's not, and that I don't have much else to add. We talked about this a decent amount, but I also feel like it's too high. The more I'm looking at this, and I think I put it this high just because, like we talked about before, I was impressed with the cliffhanger with it, and it's better than the book in a lot of ways. But it's Long Halloween, and I kind of want to flip it now. I kind of want to make
Oh,
that
well, it's
86.
perfect. It's perfect because I kicked it off my list last time.
You did, and I do think Batman versus Dracula is good enough to take its place to go up that high. I almost wish I could do. I almost want to tie it with you. I think it's better in that spot. But I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of married to this. So whatever. I don't know how it wound up this high because it's not even a movie I've seen much. Maybe I probably did that just because I want to watch it again. I mean, I don't know. It also looks pretty good compared to a lot of those direct to video things. We talked about that before, and like I said, that cliffhanger is really cool. I feel like the ending does make more sense than the book does. I like that Batman voice fine.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't have much else to add because it's been too long since I've watched it.
And I put it at what, like 98, and then complained about it the entire
You did,
time.
yeah.
But
Robert says he's shocked I put it that high. Yeah, I must
I
have
didn't
been
think
high.
it
I'm
was
not sure what I was. I'm kidding, but I'm not sure what I was thinking when I did that.
Mhm. No, I didn't think it was making your list, so I'm shocked.
Yeah, I want to officially flip them. Makes a lot more sense if that's at 86 and Dracula's at 66. Because also Dracula, I think is yeah, I think it actually is better. You don't get a pass just because you're two movies.
Yeah, get out of here, Long
Go
Halloween.
way long. I'll get off my list.
Yeah, get out of
Get
here.
off my lawn.
Oh, you think you're special because you came out like 20 years too late?
And there's
Get out of
and
here.
you got two movies just to get it all in there.
Hmm. And you didn't even get it all in there.
That's true.
Get out of here, Long Halloween.
Well, anyway, let's end this on a note of embarrassment. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. We sure appreciate it. We'll be back again next week with, hopefully next week. Austin's going to be out of pocket for part of the week, so I don't know if we'll manage to do one, but we'll try to squeeze it in if we can. And it'd be nice if we could start moving at a little bit of a quicker clip. But it has been fun taking our time with these two. So
Hmm. Yeah, and I'll say my next five are probably not especially interesting, but
maybe we can blow through them quicker.
I do have five movies next.
Do you? Well, that's good. You did the assignment. My next five are also not especially interesting. They're not going to surprise anybody. There's only one. No, there's not even a big one.
I mean,
No, there's one big one.
you could maybe argue that like I don't know. Maybe some of them are like bigger. I guess I don't
I don't agree with the order of a lot of this.
know. Just do what I do. Just tinker between
I'm thinking
videos.
about messing around with it now. Yeah, I didn't want to. I feel like it's cheating, but
That's not cheating. No one knows. You only know because I said it.
that's true. All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys. We appreciate it. Thanks for showing up to this complete waste of time as I'm looking at this list, and we'll be back again next week. Tomorrow night, if you're watching live or you're watching this soon after we're putting it out, Austin and I are gonna do the rewind commentary for Joker. And we've got Joker 2 coming out this weekend, which I'll be reviewing Monday night with Connor and Robert if plans continue as they are right now. Real quick, I will read down the list of patrons at the Superhero Rewind producer tier, because I forgot to do that last time, and this is technically a rewind video, so I'm supposed to do that. But I'll do it again tomorrow night, too. But quick plug for Patreon, $15, sorry, the $10 tier. What am I talking about? $15 request. $10 tier makes you a Patreon producer, and you can hang out with us on the Discord, help us select movies for the show, and you also get your name read at the end, ostensibly, of every video with Superhero Rewind in the title. So thanks a lot to you guys, including Breezy Hemi, Jesse Surtees, Jajira, Chewbacca's Lover, Dr. Hello, Goofster123, Joe Turner, John Matthew McLean, Super Billy, Vic Apocalypse, Victor, Abic Stark. I need another Vic just to get, these things should come in threes. Adam March, Damon Begay, Hot Soup, Invisipig, John Sandoval, Kareem Roberts, Kate, MattBat68, Matthew Brody, Michael Martin, Miguel Rodriguez, this guy is the Day Ghost, and Wendell Jones. There used to be 2 or 3 after you, Austin, but they've left or the order has moved.
Ah, they left. They're like, screw this channel.
Well, I don't expect people to stick around and give me $10 a month forever. Thank you guys. Appreciate you a bunch. And we'll be back again real soon. I was Captain Logan. And this is Austin the Day Ghost.
See ya.
Goodbye, folks.